Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Power to Move Faster with Cloud-Based Identity Governance. I'm Shay Mann, and I will be your moderator today. Today's webinar is in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions throughout the event, please submit them in the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen, and we'll get to those during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. This session will be recorded, and we will email you a link to the recorded version tomorrow. So I'd like to take a second to briefly introduce our speakers that we have today. First off, we have Colin Perry, Director of SaaS Solutions for SailPoint. Colin has a degree in Business Information Systems. He has 15 years of experience in identity and access management, including time in IAM consulting and implementation, audit, as well as 9 years here with us at SailPoint. Next, we've got Scott McDonald, Director of Cybersecurity and Privacy for PwC. Scott has a degree in computer science. He's been in the identity space for 12 years with the concentration in the implementation and customization of access management and identity governance platforms across a variety of vendors, including IBM, CA, SailPoint, and Ping. And last but not least, we've got Robert House, Director of Cybersecurity and Privacy for PwC. Robert has a degree in economics and business with a minor in computer science. He's been in the identity space for 12 years with the concentration in the implementation and customization of access management and identity governance platforms across a variety of vendors, including Oracle, SailPoint, CA, and Ping. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Colin Perry to present today's agenda.
Great. Thank you, Shay, and thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm certainly excited to have the opportunity to speak to you all today. From the SailPoint perspective, we're seeing tremendous interest and adoption of Cloud IGA in the market. And with that, I realize there's a lot of questions people have about this market. So we're really hoping today with the topics we prepared to kind of give a little bit of something for everyone, realizing that those attending the webinar may have all different situations at your environment. You guys may already have an identity program in place. You may be looking to replace that, or maybe happy with it and looking to add on to what you're already doing, or you may be just interested in this market kind of as a first look at what Cloud IGA has to offer. Across all those different situations, we'll be covering kind of a little of everything. Specifically, the first topic we'll be covering today is what cloud-based identity governance is and what it isn't. I think there's a lot of misconceptions in the market about what this space really sets out to achieve and what's included with it. So we'll cover some of those fallacies as well as kind of some of the big truths about what this space has to offer. Second, we'll talk about what we really have, what Cloud IGA can do for you if you already have invested in an on-premises system, and we'll go through several examples of that. Next, we'll talk a little bit about some of the key things you need to know about Cloud IGA, and lastly, how you can take your deployment to the next level. Scott, any comments on the agenda here?
Sure. Hello, everyone. This is Scott McDonald, and we thought that it would be very timely for us to provide this webinar. PwC hears from a lot of clients who are asking us what they should be doing in this area, how the various cloud solutions compare, whether they should be doing on-premise or in the cloud, and what's the right choice for them. And we want to address that. On the call today, we expect that we've got representation from business leaders to architects and engineers, and clients that have use cases that are both large and small. We've arranged our discussion to provide each of you with something interesting.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob House. The central concept that we want to convey in this webinar, getting back to the agenda point of, what is Cloud IGA and what isn't it, is that Identity Now is a cloud-based identity governance and administration application. In order to introduce that concept, we thought a real-world example would be helpful. So we chose an example of a large manufacturing organization that was looking to rapidly mature their IAM posture, their identity and access management posture, beginning this year. The other objective that they had to align with that was a corporate-wide objective was a strategic decision to basically adopt cloud applications as a first choice for all new corporate IT solutions. So a lot of corporations that are in this situation and looking for a quick win will start to look at the market and naturally consider identity as a service or IDaaS solutions. In this case, however, the customer had very specific requirements for a much more comprehensive set of capabilities than IDaaS could provide from their cloud solution. In particular, they needed to replace aging legacy password management solutions, establish an access review and certification process, and enable provisioning across a number of applications, including core on-premises applications like SAP. So in this way, they were greatly exceeding the capabilities of products in the IDaaS space. Colin, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, certainly. So from the SailPoint perspective, when we first spoke to this organization, they had actually already done proof of concepts with several, quote unquote IDaaS vendors, and hadn't purchased any of them. And really, they had a lot of frustration with it. They saw IDaaS as kind of a promise of a quick win within their organization, but when we spoke to them, they kind of pointed out that, look, this only really does single sign-on. It doesn't do anything more than that. It doesn't connect to our on-prem systems, doesn't extend capability to things like SAP and their mainframe environment, and so we haven't bought anything yet. We're frustrated. We don't know what to do. And so what we did was we had the opportunity to introduce them to our solution Identity Now from SailPoint, and really talk about, kind of re-educate on what Cloud IGA really is. It's not IDaaS. It's actually a lot broader solution that can cover a lot more disciplines than just SSO. Scott?
From the client's perspective, Identity Now was able to meet the needs of several stakeholders. The technology team, for example, was not spending a significant amount of time working on infrastructure or performing the installation. 3 of the environments were provided by SailPoint and ready to go. This minimized the number of servers that were required on-premise, and several of the common architecture decisions that can often slow down the implementation weren't necessary. This client had a fair amount of configuration, but they were able to move away from configuration. They integrated with a large number of critical on-premises systems to establish a governance foundation. This allowed them to have an understanding of who had access to what. And this enabled their auditing team to be able to do cloud-based access reviews. The HR systems, for example, they were able to automate lifecycle events, such as onboarding and offboarding. The IT team was even able to design and deploy roles in order to automate the granting of access. The ERP team was satisfied because they were able to connect to SAP from this system and get some basic SAP governance in place. Keep in mind that the SAP connector that's used in Identity Now is the same one that's used in the on-premise IIQ solution. It has full capabilities such as creating accounts and assigning user attributes. While Identity Now brought good features with it and it eased the setup of the environment, there's still a lot of hard work of integrating IAM, and it definitely was there for this client. The analysis and the pre-work was still there, and it was time-consuming. However, once that was done, the client saw that the implementations required less resources. Let's dive into our next section where we talk more about what Cloud IGA is and what it's not.
Great, thanks, Scott. Yeah, in this space, I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of great things happening as well. And one of the first points is that when we talk about cloud-based identity governance, we're specifically saying that this is not IDaaS. I think the great news about the IDaaS market and just identity moving to SaaS offerings in the space is that a lot of organizations that may have seen identity management, identity programs, identity governance as being a kind of too big of an endeavor to get into, maybe too much cost to take on, or too big of a project to take on with everything else going on. A lot of organizations in the mid-market space or even the large enterprise that have just kind of never embarked on an identity program have been able to do so. And so that's the really great part of this. However, one of the most common conversations that we have here at SailPoint, and certainly one of the biggest confusions I see in the market, is that people, largely due to, I think, a lot of the marketing that's been out there in the space, people are just really confused about what is this? What is SaaS identity and IDaaS versus Cloud IGA versus all these other things? I think it's made it difficult for people to navigate through it. So, one of the first kind of simple concepts here is Cloud IGA is not IDaaS. IDaaS is really focused heavily on single sign-on, and kudos to Gartner for really abandoning the whole IDaaS space, because I think that was creating, a lot of confusion. People didn't really know, and a lot of those vendors were saying that they do more than SSO. But when it came to, like the example we just shared with you, organizations spending a lot of time and money evaluating those solutions, all they were left with is finding that, no, that they really just do single sign-on. They don't even do basic password management beyond that. So I think it's been really great to kind of see that evolution. The second point I want to make here is that there's a huge distinction, and when we talk about a lot of the benefits here in a few minutes of cloud-based identity governance and what we really mean with Cloud IGA and our solution here at SailPoint Identity Now, is that on-prem IGA hosted in the cloud is not the same as what we're talking about with true Cloud IGA or SaaS-based IGA, which really is this concept of all the benefits of lowering your total cost of ownership, having 100% availability, a high security model, things like that are really lost if you just host an on-prem solution in the cloud. And again, we'll talk more about that, but I think it's another thing that's just really important to look at when you speak to vendors and just kind of look at this market, is make sure that they're not just hosting their on-prem solution in the cloud. And if so, there's going to be some specific kind of advantages that are not realized with that type of deployment.
Colin, I agree with what you're saying. I think there seemingly is a lot of misinformation out there on this topic. PwC has found that vendors have been over-promising their capabilities in this space, and they've been making the choices confusing and frustrating for everyone. We're often asked whether to go on-prem or in the cloud, and from our perspective, the client shouldn't be making this choice just because their timelines are tight. The answer is we want to be able to examine the client's business closely and determine the right choice for them. We do not want to skip on the important parts of any successful IAM implementation, which includes collecting requirements. Cloud-based identity governance is not just a deployment choice, as our third bullet points out. Think about it like this. Many of you have experienced where your company's HR system has moved from on-prem into the cloud. The new system may not have all the same sets of features that the old system had, but your company made the selection, and with it, accepted a few of those trade-offs. Next, let's discuss what cloud-based identity governance is. Many of you may already be familiar with Identity as a Service. IDaaS, which Colin just pointed out, usually refers to single sign-on hosted by a third party in the cloud. However, cloud-based identity governance is more of a complete story. It comes with features like SSO, which is a key component, but it also offers a broader range of features that you see here, such as password management, access certification, and user provisioning. PwC has found that some of the vendors out there focus mostly on single sign-on, which is important, but it's not the complete set of IGA components that are really required to solve the overall identity problems that our clients face. Cloud-based IGA also implies that new features are going to be deployed continuously. This means for our clients that patching and upgrades should be handled by the provider. In the past, planning and executing upgrades, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, has taken as long as 4 or 5 months with your on-prem system. Now these upgrades and patches roll out monthly or even weekly. And I want to take a minute to acknowledge the fact that traditional on-prem IAM or identity governance projects that you've worked on may have been painful at times and expensive. Many of you that are joining the call are likely wondering, can cloud-based identity governance really make things easier and faster and cheaper? The short answer is yes. While there is no magic bullet to improving the business processes, mapping out workflows, and etc. are still going to be required. Cloud IGA can reduce the complexity and the total cost of ownership of the program. Specifically, one example is in the area of installation and maintenance. Many of you are familiar with the common infrastructure required to go through IAM, and this is very expensive in traditional on-prem solutions. You have servers, databases, app servers. All of this is going to require licensing, patching, and on an ongoing basis. So the answer is yes, you can expect a lower TCO for a cloud-based IGA solution. Colin, now that we've discussed a bit about cloud-based identity governance, can you take us through what SailPoint offers?
Certainly. So When we set out to build a pure SaaS solution here at SailPoint, I think the first point back to my earlier comments is that we did exactly that. We obviously, I think a lot of you attending the webinar probably know that we've had an on-prem solution for a really long time, and it's still extremely popular in the market. That solution, we could have chosen to just host that in the cloud and called it a cloud solution, but we deliberately didn't do that. We realized that when people are looking for a kind of moving the ball forward on disciplines or adding to what they're already doing with our on-prem solution or another solution, they're really wanting to utilize the advantages of pure SaaS. 100% availability, weekly feature updates, not having to wait 9 months for new feature releases, and really also gave us an opportunity to actually build from the ground up a whole new way of securing identity data and specifically sensitive information like passwords and authentication requests throughout the solution. We actually, as part of this solution, designed a patented encryption model called zero-knowledge encryption. But from a functional point of view, notice that we also didn't, while we realized single sign-on is a key requirement and we built that as a cornerstone of the solution, we also didn't just stop there. We realized that single sign-on is literally just a quarter of the overall puzzle, that really what's needed to be successful, create a successful IAM program is to include single sign-on with password management kind of working in combination with single sign-on, picking up where single sign-on leaves off and really allowing people to have a consumer simple password reset process. Additionally, allowing organizations that always had a niche solution for password reset to be able to retire that solution and actually have a full enterprise-wide password management, password synchronization capability across all the connectivity that we offer. From there, it's great that we have those two disciplines from an end-user point of view, but really what's needed is also full provisioning. And not just provisioning for cloud applications or, limiting it to kind of the new applications organizations are adopting, but really having full connectivity for all of the legacy systems as well. Everything from directories, databases, platforms, mainframes, you name it. That's kind of the legacy world that we're going to still have to integrate with for the foreseeable future, at least the next 10, 15 years. So we have full connectivity across all of that. And the other big part is, while we're one of the co-authors of the SCIM standard, we certainly realize that that's not a near-term answer to the question of solving provisioning. Really, that's something that certain applications will start adopting over the next 5 to 10 years, but is probably going to take a little while to get fully adopted. And lastly, it's great that we can handle all the onboarding, offboarding, transfers, all that automation, access requests, but there's still a need for access certification. People need to have that visibility to who has access to what. And really, organizations need that ability to empower different people across the organization to be able to see their people that they're responsible for and review that access on a periodic basis. So that's where access certification comes in. The other part of the solution I think it's important to mention is that a lot of our customers are adopting some subset of this functionality at different times. So the nice part about the solution is you don't have to actually acquire the whole thing all at once. You can start with a combination of password management, SSO, and certification, maybe wait on provisioning or add provisioning in first and hit some of the other areas second. So you have the ability to have a flexible deployment model on that side as well. And then, as I mentioned, full connectivity across on-prem and SaaS. The last point I wanted to make on this is that from an overall program point of view, I think one of the really most interesting things about this and the fact that we didn't just focus on single sign-on is that from a CIO or CFO point of view, there are really kind of 3 key buckets of identity that we're hitting with any project. And that includes the security and compliance bucket with our multi-factor password complexity policies, certifications, terminations, all these key business process improvements. So there's a huge benefit there from an internal controls improvement and just overall compliance and security improvement. The second bucket, operational efficiency. A lot of customers have said we've ended up saving them a lot of money with reducing calls to the help desk for password resets, automating provisioning, improving their access certification process, and then the third bucket being that end user experience. So the improvement in end user experience nowadays is often one of the most kind of important things that organizations are looking to do, and so we're really able to accomplish all 3 across this solution. From here, we'll go ahead and I'll pass it over to Scott to talk a little bit about hybrid opportunities.
So what should you do if you already own an on-premise identity management solution? I think one thing we want to be clear about is that, we're not really looking for anyone to suggest that your on-premise solution is going away. However, I do think that there's going to be a need for many of our clients to have at least some part of their identity solution in the cloud. Let's talk about the SailPoint hybrid model and how that might be able to help our customers.
Great, thanks, Scott. So what you see depicted on the slide here is actually from SailPoint here, our SaaS solution Identity Now, which I just introduced, and specifically looking at the single sign-on and password management components of that, and then added to the right-hand side of the screen there with our on-prem solution Identity IQ, which in this example is covering provisioning and certification. And there are really two scenarios that maybe a lot of you can relate to on the phone if you already have some level of solution in place. And there's, like I said, two really kind of core scenarios that we see. The first is a situation where an organization has already adopted some level of on-prem provisioning, governance, identity, automation. It could be a homegrown solution, could be our Identity IQ solution. And in this scenario, they're happy with it. They feel like they need to have that for the foreseeable future, and they want to keep that in place. And so, that's one option. The other scenario, which Rob will talk about in a second, is really a situation where organizations they may have already invested in one or multiple on-prem solutions, but are looking to move away from that. So in the first scenario, like I said, this is existing organizations that have an on-prem solution. They're happy with that solution, and they're looking to essentially establish a point of presence in the cloud. Add some of these Cloud IGA features to extend their functionality. Some of the most common features and use cases we see are related to single sign-on and password management. And with that, the goal is to basically take everything they're doing today kind of behind the scenes, maybe with provisioning or some level of end user adoption from access certification, and basically say, I want to provide these really powerful end user focused capabilities so that users can access applications more quickly, reset passwords wherever they are, use heavily mobile enabled for all these different use cases. And then additionally, have this point of presence in the cloud with Identity Now so that over time, as I expand and add more systems or kind of move my program forward, I already have a cloud platform in place to move things along over time. And specifically in this example, for customers that have Identity IQ in place, we actually have a very tight integration between Identity Now and Identity IQ to basically share the same data model, leverage the same connectivity, and really provide a lot of synergies on that side of things. Rob, do you want to talk about the second example?
Yeah, so in the second example, we would be talking about clients that have one or more on-premises provisioning or governance solutions already installed. And there are certainly a lot of people that or companies that fall into this use case. And typically these involve a lot of complexity that has resulted from legacy implementations that span back a number of years. So those clients find themselves in a situation where they're not necessarily wanting to move to full cloud-based identity governance in one step. They may have restrictions and constraints where it's not possible to do an immediate move to the cloud because there's a lot of customization and business process that's built into those existing solutions. And so a hybrid model is actually a great option for those organizations. What it does is allow them to move to a much simpler and more streamlined architecture at their own pace, and make decisions based around things like when are we planning our next upgrade of this on-prem solution, and should we take advantage of moving to the cloud now? But it allows them to keep their investment in the on-prem and not rush into things or not have to undertake a costly effort just for the sake of moving to the cloud immediately. So when they can schedule that in, it gets them to that simpler architecture, it reduces the costs, and it creates a much more future-proof platform. It allows decisions to be made around, are those heavy customizations really something that's still providing value, or can we streamline the approach as we move to the cloud? So with that hybrid approach in place and the ability to move to a full cloud-based identity governance over time, that's a very pragmatic approach. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that says you need to abandon the on-prem and move to the cloud. And in fact, our view is that, again, I think it's been stated earlier in the presentation that, our belief is that there will continue to be significant on-prem solution presence for, for the several years into the future. So let's go to a customer case study. Scott, you want to hit this?
All right, so you'll see that this particular use case was very similar to the one that Rob described. And in this client, they had a complex legacy IAM system. They had a lot of complicated use cases, lots of customization, and they chose to go with both Identity IQ and the cloud-based Identity Now. And you'll notice that there are several features in Identity Now that they chose not to enable. They kept those on-premise due to the fact that their use cases were too complex or they needed some significant capabilities that Identity IQ provides. One of the things that I think is most interesting about this client example is they had a lot of requirements to move into the cloud first. They were a cloud first company, and so one of the things they had to do was balance that. So they chose to put things like a single sign-on into the cloud because they knew that their business was going to go out and purchase significant numbers of SaaS solutions. So they wanted to have that presence in the cloud. Also, they needed off-network password reset. One of the slick features about Identity Now is that you can reset your password from your mobile phone, and I don't have to punch a hole through my firewall in order to connect it to Identity IQ. And when they selected this hybrid option, I think one of the things that was very important was they had the ability to say, okay, well, we're going to put access certification on-premise and Identity IQ. And as we've been talking about, the capabilities of Identity Now are continuing to grow. And in a later point in time, they could choose to move that into the cloud. And so while they didn't put every function in the cloud this phase, they may choose to do it in a future phase.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I'd add on to this that the situation in this organization, I think, is very very common. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to it. Is they had multiple IAM solutions already in place, right? And they had a lot of custom workflows and a lot of really complicated processes in place. And so kind of like a lot of organizations that are exhibiting the same type of look at their CRM processes or other key processes across their organization, they may not be able to go all cloud right away. Now, on the Identity Now, the SailPoint SaaS platform side of things, we have really advanced capabilities in provisioning and access certification, but it may not be a perfect fit for organizations that have a lot of custom stuff that they already have in place, and it may not be feasible to just kind of move, cold turkey all the way over to much more kind of or maybe changing all those processes overnight. And so really this combination was a perfect fit for them. They were able to establish their point of presence in the cloud, have that option to move over time, as Scott just mentioned. They had the ability to get some really quick wins in their project with password reset, single sign-on, and then while also in parallel working on provisioning and certification. So from a deployment point of view, it's just a great kind of constant quick wins throughout the project. And then from a senior leadership point of view in the from a project point of view and kind of the senior leadership perspective on this project, there were wins across the board, right? As I just talked about earlier, there was wins across the security and compliance bucket, big operational efficiency improvements with reduction in calls to the help desk for password reset and provisioning when they go live with that. And then, this whole provisioning and automation around access reviews really had a profound effect on their internal controls and a lot of stuff they were doing on the compliance side. So with that, we'll transition into some of the key things you need to know about Cloud IGA.
Okay, so we're going to just talk about a few points that are important to keep in mind here as you consider Cloud IGA. I think everybody that's attending the webinar has seen this type of information already, and probably particularly in the last couple of years. But one of the things that's important to realize that is in the midst of these numbers, showing organizations moving to BYOD, purchasing SaaS applications without consulting with IT or outside of the IT organization, and the enormous move that we see to the cloud. Some of the things that you have to watch for are that the core identity and governance processes are sometimes regressing. It's so easy sometimes to, for a shadow IT organization to come up and adopt a cloud-based solution or to rush into it. And, underscoring the point made earlier about the analysis and design still needing to be done carefully in order to get the governance benefit means that you really need to be able to have all of the functionality of Cloud IGA and consider the requirements so that you can provide a holistic solution to your identity and access management challenges. If you don't take that time, if you don't do that and have a product that can offer you that full set of capabilities, you can sometimes regress your processes and not get that benefit. So having that is often helping to create visibility with your senior organization leaders for the need for a strong IGA platform. And that's kind of the message that we're taking to organizations when they consider Cloud IGA. Colin,
so much in the yeah, sure. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, much in alignment with the points you just made. I think because of the rapid adoption of SaaS applications, there's kind of been a realization on the identity side that, hey, we should be doing the same thing. We shouldn't be having this this significantly really complex on-prem processes. We need to simplify. We need to also extend and give our users new functionality that they're really demanding. I think a really good example is we kind of look at some of the core use cases we see out there that are really cloud-enabled are things like password management. For your bank, for your insurance company, you can reset your password from Starbucks on your mobile phone using an app. And you can, do that and get into wherever, when you're on the go, you can get into all the sensitive or critical information that you need every day. And so similarly for the enterprise, it's the same expectation. People aren't willing to go through a long registration process to set up challenge questions and establish all this kind of stuff. They just won't do it. And so in order to be successful, we need something that works wherever they are, whenever they need to get to things. And the same is true for single sign-on. We're also finding a lot of organizations may have some level of access review or access certification process established now, but they're looking at how do I make that even better? How do I allow people to do those certifications wherever they are, whenever they're off network, whenever they're at home, on the weekend, when they have some free time, they need to knock out some of their kind of stuff that's part of their job, but they just never had time to get to it. So they need to be able to pull up a tablet and conduct those reviews. Another kind of related use case is enabling business partners to do reviews of their people that have access into your systems. So kind of extending your internal controls out into even your business partner community, and that's, again, something that really requires that point of presence in the cloud to exist. And similarly, we're seeing the same trend on access request and provisioning, being able to request access from your phone wherever you are, be able to get that and have it approved via push notifications and other types of things, I think is really just powerful use cases that we find here. When you look at Cloud IGA, I think other points you just need to realize are kind of message, especially as you're kind of building a program out for this, is this focus on end user experience. We've really seen a shift over the last 10, 15 years from a focus on just operational efficiency and compliance and governance to this focus on how do I make the end user experience every day at the organization better. And as part of that, I would say kind of another common thread is that with that user experience and kind of the rollout of identity, it is integral to the corporate processes, but do we really need to make those all fully custom? Do we need to develop, clean slate, whiteboard, map out this fully custom process we want to do, or can we kind of get away with, some advanced configuration and make it a little bit more simplified, a little bit more in line with what the SaaS solution does out of the box in order to avoid kind of a heavy, long, maybe not sustainable maintenance process to kind of support and maintain that solution over time. And the last key point is just this realization that when a lot of organizations are comparing kind of an on-prem approach to SaaS, there's significantly lower total cost of ownership with with a SaaS model. I mean, if you, as I think Scott pointed out earlier, on just the cost of infrastructure alone and patching and database servers and app servers and things like that, there's just so much cost and that's not necessarily always kind of recognized on that side of things, that's just avoided completely with a SaaS solution, as well as being future-proof in the sense of always being on the latest version. You know, with that, I think in the kind of concept of making your overall maintenance and management of your program simpler, let's transition into taking deployments to the next level. I'll pass it over to you, Scott.
Thanks. So with all the changes to identity and access management, PwC is adjusting the way that it focuses on delivering services to its clients. Rob, do you want to take us through this next slide and explain how we're changing the way that we deliver our services?
Sure thing. So in this slide and the next one, what we're going to provide you with is PwC's view on the importance, the continued importance of run, maintain, and enhance activities in any IGA deployment that you do. And it's similar in terms of the types of things you're doing in an on-premise solution to make sure that you're getting, again, that true governance benefit. And then we're going to show you how managed service offerings that we can offer you can be tailored to the Cloud IGA platform with an eye towards reducing staffing while still meeting those important needs. So if we look at this slide, this is our view on a gap that we see a lot of times with companies implementing identity governance solutions. So in most projects, the beginning of the IGA approach is to identify an implementation need and a set of the first targets that you want to integrate in that solution. So typically, for example, you might decide that you're going to provision to AD, Exchange, a line of business application, and then a couple other of key applications where you need to have the full focus of IGA and the full set of capabilities from provisioning to single sign-on and then to access recertification. So that project is usually done on a consulting basis or a one-time basis, and the needs are to deploy the solution, focus on completion of those targets, and you're meeting a set of SOW requirements that are specific to that time frame. Once that's done, the traditional transfer to the organization's operational team ideally would be to transition that to a team that is experienced with identity and access management products, would be scalable per demand, would be able to both resolve tickets, trouble tickets that come out of IGA, and then also resolve any root cause issues that they see in the deployed platform once they've had experience with it over time. And then basically run it with procedures that are rooted in best practices in the industry for identity governance. The gap that we see is that clients often have some challenges in getting to that ideal transition state. One of the key ones is being able to find the right skills. The identity and access market right now and for the foreseeable future makes it very difficult for organizations to attract and retain a team that has deep experience based on the demand for those skills in the market. So what happens is the focus is on kind of get through the day activities and close ticket activities, and there's not a lot of availability of resources to execute on continuous improvement because things will change over time. The kinds of things that you want to do with the targets that you've integrated are going to change, and you want to be able to enhance the system over time to get continuous improvement out of it. The other continuous improvement, obviously, is being able to incorporate more integrated systems over time. That becomes difficult. And then finally, the ability to proactively monitor resolve root causes, and scale up during busy seasons or busy times and then scale back can be problematic for organizations. So PwC is designing a managed service offering around Identity Now, where we integrate with your support teams. That managed services team basically has the direct support from PwC globally, which means that we have access to an expansive identity and access knowledge base, both from a technical side, but also from a business side. What are the kinds of use cases that we see over and over again? How do we optimize? How do we enhance to meet those use cases?
So Rob, one of the questions that I think people might have on their minds is, PwC is not the traditional operations company that you'd go to. How would you respond to people asking, aren't we more expensive?
So I think that certainly if you look at this, if you look at the problem in terms of rate per hour per head, then yes, PwC is going to seem expensive. But the approach that we want to stress that's the right one to take is to tailor the offering to organizations so that we're concentrating on root causes and enhancement. So it's not just close out tickets, it's reduce the volume of tickets, and then that results often in a reduction of staff. So, we have seen examples where our managed services team is able to take a large support organization, 20 to 40 people, and reduce that to about 10 to 12, and continue to get the continuous improvement and continue to run and maintain and resolve tickets as well. So that reduction in headcount based on that approach, ultimately, I think if you do the cost analysis, you'll find that we're very competitive because that's our approach in the offering. It's not just closing tickets throughout a 24-hour period. It's actually knowing the platform, extending the platform, and if there are root cause issues, solving them so that things don't become constant thorns in your side. So going through the next slide, what we're showing here is that with the move to your Cloud IGA solution is one that allows you to offload a good portion or the full portion of your technology stack, so you don't have high implementation costs. But you're going to have all of the same identity management issues that we talked about, extending your targets and resolving root causes, occasionally doing enhancements and configurations to the system. So what we can do with the managed services solution in the cloud space, and particularly with Identity Now, is allow clients to engage PwC in smaller projects or efforts that offer repeatable patterns. So it offers clients a buy-as-you-go capability, very similar to what you can do with the Identity Now product itself. We're matching the services to the idea that there are bundles of services that are repeatable. You can buy on that bundle basis. So, for instance, the discrete sets of work that we see, depending on the focus that the organization has at the time, would be implementation services. So if you look here in our slide in the buy column, we offer packaged implementation services that are tailored to a number of targets that you're trying to implement. If you're looking to, at points in time, expand your portfolio of targets that are managed by Identity Now, you can buy an application integration module, which packages a number of targets at a set price and allows you to, buy that, do that effort, and then take that effort down. So you're scaling up your resourcing capability by taking advantage of the managed service. And then finally, when we look at continuous monitoring, access certification, those types of things, you can buy that as a package as well, independent of having an implementation project going on or having an application module integration going on. So again, the idea here is it's a good managed service offering that you can align to chunks of work or particular capabilities at points in time and ramp up and ramp down. And we think that really gives customers a very good advantage at a competitive cost. Scott, do you want to continue on there?
Sure. Great topic, Rob. So I think we've got some questions coming in, and I'd like to move us on to that. Colin, you want to close us out?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think just to summarize everything we've just covered here, I think that the key things to leave you guys with, cloud-based identity governance, it's got a lot of key advantages. I think we covered the lower TCO, the fact that you don't need to have any kind of real infrastructure, databases, platforms, app servers, all that stuff that you normally have with an on-prem deployment. The quicker time to value, I think that's realized in several different ways, but certainly the ability to accelerate the standing up of the solution architecture, the ability to get quick wins across single sign-on password management, even a lot of certification and provisioning capabilities that can be quicker projects than what we've traditionally seen. The real focus on end-user experience, so empowering users to do more and kind of making identity much more in line with how people actually conduct their lives every day. The full connectivity to on-prem and cloud systems. This is probably one of the biggest misunderstandings that I see out there, which is that people feel like, I think largely due to a lot of the other SaaS solutions out there, only really supporting connectivity for cloud systems. The fact that, we fully integrate with all the same on-prem systems and cloud systems that organizations have. So this allows you to integrate with all your legacy stuff as well as the new stuff. And then, lastly, the option to add on existing, the option to kind of expand your existing on-prem deployment and enhance it with what you're doing with Cloud IGA. So hopefully it goes without saying, PwC and SailPoint are here to help you. And with that, we'll leave it and open up for some questions.
Great. Thank you, Colin. Great presentation. Let's go ahead and get to the questions with the remaining time we have left. Let's start with the first one. Colin, I think this would be great for you to answer. It says, what size organizations is the SailPoint Identity Now Cloud IGA solution designed for?
Well, so, I mean, the simple answer is that it's really designed for organizations of all sizes. I would say, as most of you know, here at SailPoint, we really focus kind of on the little bit larger, small organizations all the way to the kind of mega large enterprise. And that's really, when you look at the customers that Identity Now have, we've lots of customers on Identity Now platform, and the large majority kind of span the gamut of mid-market to mega large enterprise. The reality is we designed it kind of for all sizes. As it continues to evolve, I think one of the things, to all the points we made today, I think organizations, mid-market or even a little bit smaller organizations that traditionally have always wanted to get into identity that may have not have been able to kind of take it on given the kind of on-prem requirements that it had previously, now are able to. And so I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. We're already seeing quite a bit of momentum towards that, but the short answer is, it's really designed for all organizations of all sizes.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next question. Is this PwC overlay service for SailPoint Identity Now designed for medium-sized, mid-market companies, or is it designed for all sizes? And in addition to that, does it replace the need to have a dedicated identity team?
Yeah, so I can answer that. I would repeat exactly Colin's points, that it's designed for mid-market all the way up to very large corporations that we often work with. I think the design of the idea of packages helps to make this something that is competitive even for mid-market clients that can consider PwC, where maybe they might have trepidation about working with a large integrator. It really helps to be able to bundle the services and make it attractive. On the question of whether this allows you to replace your internal team, yes, it would allow to do that. For sure, we with the implementation services and the integration module support, we would be able to do all of those services. Working with your business owners to obviously design and do requirements and analysis, we would roll it out. The ongoing service of monitoring, running access certifications, those types of things, allows companies to offload that task as well. And particularly in the case of certifications, that's something that's typically done periodically, and it's a scale-up, scale-down effort. So that flexibility is certainly there as well. What I would say is that the business people that need to be supported by the system are always going to be, part of your organization. Your business is the group that needs to know that they're covered by the capabilities of the system. So they're going to be involved, throughout, just as they are now with traditional on-premise. But the ability to basically move your stack into the cloud and then purchase in packages would allow you to greatly reduce your existing identity and access management team.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next question. So just to confirm, Identity Now can read from and provision to all of our on-prem systems like platforms, databases, mainframes, etc., in addition to cloud applications?
Yes, that's correct. I think that's, again, like I said, one of the kind of common misconceptions that people think, hey, it only, since it's SaaS, it only integrates with other cloud applications. But the reality is we've developed over the years, I'd like to think the best in the industry set of connectors, read-write connectors that support all the main operations, creating accounts, syncing attributes, doing all these really fancy operations. And that list includes everything from, as you asked in the question, directories, databases, platforms, mainframes, ERPs, the full gamut of systems. And so the short answer is, an organization, the majority of their key financial systems, key operational systems, that connectivity is there to extend to all of those existing systems, and then also support that organization as they move some of those systems, or maybe over the next 10 years, the majority of those systems to the cloud. We have connectors for all that as well.
Great, thanks, Colin.
Sorry, Shay. Just to build on that, I mean, I think it is really important to highlight that Identity Now can achieve all of these integrations. But I also know that SailPoint might say for specific customers, if they have complex integration needs, you might make a choice and keep that in Identity IIQ. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly organizations like we were talking about, the hybrid that have already invested in Identity IQ, they may choose to do that. But one of the key design points I think that Scott, you're kind of alluding to some extent, is that we chose to actually break connectivity out here at SailPoint as kind of a common thread. And so in fact, we use the exact same connectivity layer from Identity Now and Identity IQ. And in this way, as we design a new connector, our customers, whether they're running our on-prem solution or our SaaS solution, get the benefit of that. And it was a huge investment on our part to be able to do that. But the fact that we've enabled that has really kind of empowered a lot of our customers, whether they're running on-prem or SaaS or a combination, to kind of get that benefit.
Okay, I think that we can have time for one more question. Can you comment on the positives and negatives of MFA in a hybrid? Is there a consensus on where MFA should be on-premise versus in the cloud?
Yeah, I'll take a first go at this. I think certainly MFA, just we didn't cover it on the solution overview, but from a SailPoint Identity Now point of view, we build MFA into the solution. In fact, it's kind of just a gimme. We just throw it in for free. It's fully internationalized SMS, voice, email tokens, directory authentication. It's got a whole wealth of different things. It also integrates with third-party providers as well, if an organization's already using one of those, which we realize is very common. But the reality is there's probably about 200 vendors or more on the market that have MFA, and all these niche MFA vendors and pros and cons of kind of different MFA approaches. I think the overall thing that I would say, just speaking on behalf of kind of the environments I've seen, we find a lot of our customers kind of power up what they're doing on-prem. Like in this example, the question was asked about a hybrid deployment. Use Identity Now. It's got all the built-in MFA, and really you can use that across systems at your organization. It provides all the high resiliency. There's no additional cost for it, so it's just kind of rolled in for free, even if you have millions of SMS tokens going out. And you can extend it real easily, and it's really enabled anywhere a user is across all devices. So it kind of provides all those benefits of it. I think there's another corner case here where you look at network appliances or things that don't support any kind of federation, and you're looking to protect those with MFA as well. And certainly there, I think having another solution or some other kind of niche solution on-prem might kind of fit the bill for that handful of users that that's relevant for. But of course, a lot of those devices and things are also moving to support SAML or other standards that will allow integration with a SaaS-based kind of MFA stack as well. Anyone else have any other comments on that?
Colin, I would just say I agree with what you're saying there, and I think, again, it gets back to the use cases of the particular client. I like to see MFA in the cloud, but some of the complex use cases may be more easily covered by an on-premise system. So very similar to the trade-offs that we talked about with Identity Now versus IIQ. Shay?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Great, thank you guys. Well, that is all the time that we have for questions today. If we didn't have time to answer your specific question, we will follow up with you individually offline after this event. We've had some questions about the presentation. You will be emailed a link to the recording of today's webinar tomorrow from us, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you to all of our speakers for taking the time today. Great information. Thanks everyone who joined us today, and we hope you have a great day.